Hey everyone, my name is Jerry Cabazzuto from godislovetruthlife.com or godislovetruthfreedom.com because a life without freedom is not a life worth living. I'm also the founder of Soundpath.org, and today I am very honored to interview and chat with Sol Xprsn and Tenci from Ufulu Child. Ufulu Child is their ufuluchild.com is their website, which I'll drop here in the chat, as well as their link tree and their YouTube with the Inner Story Teller podcast and Thrive Zone, mom networking, and you guys are just like an amazing spiritual couple family. Love you
Thank you.
guys.
Love you too. Thank you so very much. And yes, I'm Soul Expression, spelled XPRSN. UfuluChild.com is definitely uh, one place, but our website that we push people to is the link tree. So linktr.ee/UfuluChild is kind of where it's at. Yes, perfect. Um, Thank you for having us on.
Yes, indeed. Our AI camera got a weird shot, but it is what
Yeah, we
it
could
is.
almost try to kind of, I don't know, you know,
Go for it, go for it.
sometimes, I don't know.
We'll rock with it.
Nice.
We'll rock with it.
So you guys, we all hung out at Confluence this past year. It was great to see you guys perform with Presence and with Red Pill Friends. And you guys are getting ready for yet another performance in Texas. You want to tell us about that?
Oh yeah. So shout out to John Bush. John Bush is co-founder or founder of Exit and Build. And Exit and Build, the theme of it is basically exiting the systems that keep us down and building our own systems, not just not just doing the exit part and not just doing the build part. And kind of combining those concepts in the best ways. And we were invited to perform by John at the next Exit and Build, which will be here in Texas, in Bandera, Texas, at Sovereignty Ranch. We're definitely looking forward to that. Our music is freedom, like freedom seeker oriented. Also largely family oriented, although I use profanity, but not vulgarly, right? I don't try to make people uncomfortable with the concept. I just try to emphasize the concept with profanity. And so, but I would say largely, at least conceptually, our music is very, very, very much family oriented, freedom seeker oriented. And so, if you come out and just for the music, you'll get that. But also, our content is freedom seeker oriented. So if you hit that link tree, you get that book, or even my older book, Culture Control. I hope this don't mess the camera up. Oh, trying to be fast. Culture Control. Okay, that's my first book. Then you're in for a treat. You're in for learning what life is really about and what freedom really looks like in a world where the order giver class does not have our best interests at heart. What are you doing, Liger?
And I know
Oh,
we're catching your daughter probably during her nap time, so we're gonna flow with her
Yeah, we're gonna
needs.
flow.
Yeah, it's all good. And
We're gonna flow.
you also have an amazing podcast with you have a YouTube with the Fulu Child, but you've been also working on your Inner Storyteller podcast. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So the inner storyteller, basically, how we experience life is in story form, and
We'll see you soon.
we have all of these stories running in our head at all times, and those stories influence our automated, what I call our automated responses to events in life. Okay, and I'm just gonna adjust a little bit. Um, my work targets awareness and eventually mastery of one's inner storyteller. Now, the inner storyteller as a concept does not just stop at the individual. There is also the collective inner storyteller for, let's say, a given society or all of humanity, and whatnot. And that collective inner storyteller also programs your initial responses to the events that happen around you, as well as your thought choices. Okay, if you don't know, audience, if you don't know, you respond to your own thought choices. And there we go. Hello. And there is huge bodies of work that explain the science behind that, in a different framework than in my work. My work provides the framework of the inner storyteller and like the sorting function, and certain vocabulary words that you'll find in the book, defined in the glossary at the end. But basically, that's what that's all about. And so the podcast explains those topics, as well as I just did an interview today with Miss Red, at Miss Red underscore 35 on Instagram. She's a truth seeker, really, really cool individual. And we had a great conversation about the problems that we face as the 99%, as well as some emphasis on the problems we face as Black Americans, quote unquote Black Americans. We also mentioned that in Black's Law Dictionary, the word Black as a political or racial term means dead to these people. That's what that word is defined as to them, right? Because in contract law, a term is what they say the definition is. So anyway, regardless, our the Inner Storyteller podcast is for fleshing out the ideas in the book, as well as exploring what the psychological affects and effects are of the stories that we have the most faith in and the most stake in, and how they help shape society.
I love it. And your it sounds like you're podcasting every day or something like that.
6 days a week, baby.
My
We going
gosh.
hard. You go hard or you go home. I also work 2 jobs and have a 2-year-old.
Oh my gosh. You're
And a
amazing,
wife.
truly. Yeah, yeah. And once Tensi gets back, we'll be sure to, talk about Thrive Zone. But I kind of want to dig a little deeper into this idea and sort of flesh out this concept of the inner storyteller as it pertains to race, which I agree
Okay.
is just a completely, and we're, doing this on June 20th. Yesterday was Juneteenth. And, my, my kids are mixed. They're Jamaican, Puerto Rican, and Korean. And I, I've never really bought into that whole narrative of race.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just sort of, I mean, tragic as well as comical that people do fall into that narrative. But what sort of processes um, do people would one what would you recommend
Yeah.
in terms of rewriting that narrative and reprogramming that sort of thinking?
Well, first I would say that if the focus is on creating more separation, i.e., more us versus them, then you have to start with changing something about yourself before one even explores what it means to rewrite and reclaim authorship over these very deep seated, very widespread, very like automatically accepted as true narratives surrounding a concept such as race. That said, the amount of treachery experienced by minorities and specifically Black Americans is real enough that some of the falsehoods are completely fine for now, because we have bigger fish to fry than to be super technically precise with our language when we talk about race, right? We know Jamal gets more time than Brandon. That's just true. We know that the Democrat versus Republican on the white versus black issue was made into a game to gain power and votes, on the other hand. So we know it's a game, but we also know that the game masters make it real. And I'm using real with a lot of liberty there. It's not really real, but Oh, I did it again. Oh. I don't know. I can't make it work sometimes. Um. But once somebody is at least at the level where they're not so enamored and let's say stuck in the dynamic of I'm black, therefore this is my culture. I'm Korean, therefore this is my culture. I'm white, therefore this is my culture. Or they're black, therefore that's their culture. They're white, therefore that's their culture. They're Korean, they're Chinese, they're African, that therefore that's their culture. Because both are just as dangerous as far as a slippery slope is concerned. Once somebody is able to graduate from that kind of surface level thinking and be more open to not knowing and not concluding things about entire generations of people, then we can have a real conversation about what it looks like to claim authorship, reclaim, if you will, authorship over these stories and write true stories, right? Like a false story someone may have about race is in today's society is, well, because white people have done horrible things to black people in large numbers in America's, past and not even so distant past. Austin Metcalf deserved to be stabbed in the heart at a track meet, right? That's a story that so many people are telling themselves right now in real time. But that's obviously completely untrue and unhinged, and there's something wrong there with people that subscribe to such a story. I just saw a very disheartening video on Instagram of people that were dancing, a compilation dancing video to a song that was recorded dissing Austin Metcalf. And let's just say people were holding fake knives and like doing this as a part of the dancing.
That's crazy.
Unhinged. Okay. And these were young black people in the video, of course, because the story that we're given, okay, the story that we are given and the story we subscribe to is we are victimized by white America, or we are victimized by those who support white America. Because they also look at somebody like Candace Owens and they're like, oh, well, you're a self-hating black, because of her stance on George Floyd when 2020 was happening. Um, that story, we are victimized by those who support white America, is a story that was not chosen by those who champion it. It was a story given by the political atmosphere that we were handed before we were old enough or experienced enough, smart enough, capable enough, right, to be able to choose a story for ourselves. We had already been given spoon-fed and society reinforced falsehoods and false stories. And so yeah, doing away with that story, recognizing the emotions that come with that story and when those emotions arise, just checking inside whether or not those emotions are coming from a story that you didn't write, that you didn't choose, and writing your own story in real time every time your emotions are pulled at from a narrative that supports that false story that black America is and always will be and always has been victimized by those who support white people existing and being like normal people. Right now, obviously, there is a very well documented history of bad race relations in this country that should not be necessarily diminished or dismissed offhand. But I guarantee you, there's not a white man in America that went in your bedroom at 6 a.m. and said, you need to go straight to the liquor store as soon as you wake up and get some more liquor. You need to make sure you go to the club tonight. You need to make sure that they're blasting these lyrics into your ear every single night. You need to make sure the TV is raising your kid this many hours. There's no white man walking into your room 6 a.m. every day and giving you that agenda, right? There are, let's say, racist bankers who don't give you the home loan, racist, politicians who may practice some sort of redlining or certain things when it comes to the education system in your city, not to be dismissed, not to be ignored, to definitely we should raise hell about those things. But but not taking personal responsibility for our own actions is where we need to reclaim authorship.
I love that. I love the themes of self-responsibility and just, yeah, seeing through the false narratives that one allows themselves to have written on them versus just critically thinking and looking at the bigger picture. And I think it's also really amazing that you can speak about these issues in a nuanced way because there is nuance to it. And what I'm hearing you talk about and would love to hear you talk more about is these nuances because yes, race is a man-made construct, and because people believe this false narrative, there are actual consequences. For example, with the Black community in America, with the food deserts in certain
Yep,
urban areas, the Planned Parenthoods in certain areas, that was like totally planned, that was engineered. And so there are actual, like, real life, like, consequences to all the home loan, the
yeah,
way they use predatory practices against Black communities specifically. There's just so many examples of the systemic racism. So that is real, but that is based on a false narrative. And so,
correct.
yes, race is not real. It's not, but the belief in it has consequences.
It's kind of like how I talk about the religion of monetary value, right? The religion of monetary value postulates that there is a value measurement in nature called monetary value that we can apply to various forms of currency. And this is completely a lie. It's not true. There's no real such thing as monetary value. But because the entire world is under this spell, besides the one or two never colonized islands that have humans on them, besides the one or two islands, the entire world, okay, everybody in the human family, almost bar none, are under this same spell. We do have to speak about certain things within the paradigm of accepting that there's such a thing as a monetary value, right? And there's so many layers to it. Like I talk to so many freedom seekers who I respect and who don't deserve to be just like dissed offhand or whatever, but they just have this idea that, oh, but if we stayed on the gold standard, then things would have been all right because it would have tied money to something that's real and tangible. And it's like, no, that's still within the false story that there's such a thing as monetary value. There's no such thing as monetary value in gold. There's because, and this is why, or why this is because there's no transaction that nature requires for a project to be completed. Okay. For us to come together and do a project, to gather supplies, to create the tools or get the tools, to get the manpower, and to actually do the work, apply the knowledge and do the work that completes the project, nature didn't say, well, wait a minute, you didn't do a transaction. This thing that you humans call money never changed hands, therefore you can't complete this project. It's like, well, no, uh actually we can. We can just share, we can just sacrifice time and just pay attention, we can choose to do things together without this intermediary that we call, the bank, or this intermediary that we call a monetary transaction. It is 100,000% within our power to do things with just work and knowledge, because those are the only natural requirements for any project to get done. Does that mean that any idea about an economic system is pure evil? Absolutely not. There's nothing wrong with organizing and putting an artificial measurement to how much work certain people put in versus other people as a way to, you know have some sort of property ownership claim or something like that, that organization is completely legitimate and even necessary for some projects, I would say. It's smart to organize that and not enable freeloaders to a certain degree, right? But it's also very important to remember and recognize that money is a tool we can put down and not use and not engage with when it's not needed. And when it comes to feeding, housing, and medical treatment being provided for people and using technology to do so, there is no transaction that should be in the way of any of that. Food, water, housing, and medical treatment for, trauma and poison and stuff like that should be universally accepted as outside of every money system ever created. Why? Because there's no money that's required for the project of healing that person, housing that person, or letting that person drink clean water. Nature doesn't require the transaction, right? If we want to have 9 billion people or eventually 20 billion people on Earth sharing in all of these resources, then we need to figure out how much sacrifice and how much just helping each other and things like that we need to do and normalize to do it sustainably. One, without destroying the planet, and two, without destroying our own minds with these false narratives. So it's kind of like that with the race. I know I didn't go into race there, but I think I hit the 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 main point on the head.
Yeah, yeah, as an analogy for sure. And then, sort of thinking about this idea of um, other value exchange systems, I try to think less about things in terms of money and more in terms of currency, energy, and the way we can harness a current is through that exchange of value, and the more that we can move through it, versus hoarding and storing or just like depleting. It's about the exchange. And yeah, I love everything you said. And also I'm thinking about how, a lot of communities, they want these things like, you know, um,
Community gardens.
community gardens, stuff like that. Yeah. And having local solutions versus and self governance versus looking to a man made authority such as
Right. Private
government for
security.
these. Hmm.
Yep. Yeah. Police can very easily be localized private security. Or, if security is not the right word, private watch of some kind. Court systems can be replaced with localized court-like, you know, places that organize the information, that keep the information in a somewhat public but centralized space, but public space where people can come and read about and see what's up and determine the moral culpability of actions or inactions that people took that resulted in somebody being harmed or something being stolen. That is very easily replaceable with something local and something sustainable versus a government that governs over a billion people in China or 300 million people here in the United States or a billion people in India, and it's this government that has all of these, the one superior and all of these inferior courts that operate on moral relativism, that operate on, well, if our laws are written this way, then morality shifts to uphold our laws. But if you cross the state border and their laws are written differently, then morality actually shifts because now you're in a different location. Well, no, right and wrong is still right and wrong across the thing, whether that's right and wrong in a business dealing or right and wrong in somebody being harmed or stolen from. It's still right or wrong. And our system is built on the story that morality change. How did I just wrote this down earlier today. I said, wait, notes, boom. No, wait, not this one. Sorry. Where is, here it is. I said,
You can
people
share
tell
your
themselves
screen.
more, huh?
If you want, you can share your screen too. That's so
Okay.
you. Yeah.
It's short.
Okay.
People tell themselves morality is relative to the law, or that morality is subject to change with the proper justification. And it's just it's so deeply believed by the majority of the human family that the biggest problem isn't even that the lie is told. The biggest problem is that the lie doesn't have to be told for it to be believed, because people operate this way under the statutes, ordinances, you know what I'm saying, and laws in our constitution or whatever. They don't even have to say that lie in a one sentence form, right? They can just give us these things. And one more thing I'll say on this same very adjacent topic is constitutionalists, who I adore them. Okay, I have no real, ironically, moral qualm with the constitutionalists, but they have this same idea that the Constitution is somehow protecting rights that were given by God. And it's like, well, no, your rights are protected by actions and inactions. Yeah, they're not protected by a piece of paper or an idea shared by somebody who was massacring native people when they wrote it. Okay, the irony in the praise of the founding fathers, who wrote extensively about not concentrating power while establishing a concentrated power in Washington, D.C. It was in New York, then it was in Washington, D.C. They literally created the concentration of power while writing about how dangerous it is to concentrate power. And and whatnot. You know, it makes my constitutionalists brothers and sisters look a little funny to me, because I'm like, y'all don't see the logical breakdown. Y'all don't see the break in the logic. Regardless, I don't know if I ranted too hard there.
Well, so I have a question, and this is truly like a genuine question. Why are why aren't there more Black people, Asian people, women in the natural law
Mm,
community? I mean, why are so few of us who happen to be part of these artificially created narrative groups? I will admit and understand
right.
that part, but understand, I should say. But you know, the effect of that is that I guess maybe there's just so much programming that like maybe people don't see their way out. I don't know. What's going
You
on here?
you yeah, you are headed in the exact right direction when you say maybe it's programming. From my perspective, in my work, it is the program. It's the stories that are fed, the differences, if you will, in the stories that are fed to non-affluent people versus the stories that are fed to affluent people. And the percentage of the population that are living in poverty versus the percentage of the population that we might call elite, which of course that's not a real, that term doesn't really represent what they are, but we can, shorten the conversation with the term elites. The elites tell their children things that are more aligned with natural law, with the way that the world works, right? Natural law being defined simply as the set of laws written into the universe, similar to the laws of thermodynamics, the laws of physics, that are not man-made, not changeable by justification or some sort of reasoning, that govern the consequences, the moral consequences to our choices, right? Our choices and our actions and inactions are, uh, the moral weight of our choices carries a consequence, good or bad, right? And the stories that the children get, as well as the environment that the children get in the realm of the elites, is so vastly different from the stories that we get in the 99%. And then within that, the stories that we get in the hood. What happens is our attention is successfully diverted to sub narratives that seem to be hitting at the root of the issue, i.e., stuff like maybe feminism. You might be familiar with how that morphed and changed from a one sentence idea of, look, this this way that the elite men behave and the laws that they write and whatnot seem to diminish the or downplay the capability and the capacity of women, right? Took that one sentence and morphed it into a whole lot of subcategories that feel like in their delivery through the media, through various propaganda stations, that they're hitting at the root of a problem. Down with the patriarchy, up with the new world. We're all even and blah blah blah. Is that's what it feels like, right? But in function and implementation, it's be a slut on purpose, hate men for no reason, um, men soften up for no reason, and be docile and be just agreeable to everything, regardless of its moral impact on the world, and all of these other things that feminism has ushered in to the lexicon and the paradigm that we live in. And well, like I said earlier, reclaiming authorship over the stories that you tell yourself is the way that we solve these things. Not that that's very easy to do. You know what I mean?
I'm curious, for like what sort of healing, I imagine you had a healing journey to get to this point. Like at least for
Oh,
me,
I'm still in it.
oh yeah. Well, I mean, for me, like plant medicine, like was huge. DMT, mushrooms, really opened my mind. Obviously, the work of Mark Passio and others in the natural law community, onegreatworknetwork.com. Just truth speakers, podcasters, generally. But I'm curious about like how, like on a personal level, like how, what worked for you?
So I am not healed. Okay, I'm not done healing, and neither are you, good people in the audience. Okay, healing is a lifelong process, and I would postulate, I would put out there that if reincarnation on Earth in a cyclical manner is a reality for at least a percentage of the population, then it might be a multiple lifetime type of ongoing process. It's not something that you've healed so much that now you're done. I even doubt that Yeshua the Christ, if asked this directly, you know, are you done healing? Would say, yeah, I'm done. I'm perfect. Didn't you read the book? I'm perfect. I doubt, that he would say that. I mean, he would probably be like, no, no, I'm still aligning with the Father, just like you should be, more and more, or whatever. Uh, speculation. Sorry, Christian brethren, I love y'all. Um, my own journey did include, so far as it's probably not even halfway done, but did include so far. First of all, my daughter being born, fatherhood, familyhood, being a good husband for 10 years changes you. You have no say in the fact that the you that exists 10 years into your marriage, um, 2.5 years into your fatherhood, are so vastly different from the you that didn't meet her yet. You know what I mean? You have no say. There's nothing that you can do or try hard enough at that'll keep you the same. And that's, I mean, that technically also applies outside of marriage, but there's something unique about when you're doing marriage and a family and fatherhood and whatnot, and you're doing it intentionally to do it well. Um, it's just a different, yeah, it's a different story. So that was a huge part of my healing. I also have been up on 11 and 7 grams of shrooms in a single trip. Um, I've tried DMT and stuff, but those were more explorations for me, and I didn't fully understand how hurt I was when I was experimenting with those explorations. But I did get to explore what it feels like to, relax certain parts of the brain and certain parts of your perception and be more sensitive to unseen forces that require a certain frequency for you to even interact with. But um, I wasn't visited by God on any of these substances, unfortunately. I wish I was. I believe people that say that they were. I wasn't. You know what I'm saying? And I never had an NDE either. I was never um, either an NDE or an astral projection experience where sleep paralysis led to me being outside of my body but being awake. I've never experienced that. I wish I could do it. I can't do it. I was a meditation coach for 7 years. I know that there is something sort of blocking me from being able to do it. But yeah, the esoteric practices, psychedelic practices, rituals didn't didn't really categorize as healing modalities when I was trying them. What my healing mainly consisted of is me challenging myself via reflection and contemplation, being a father, being a husband, um, being a man of God. Although I'm not religious, I'm not saying that as in the Christian God is the right one. Just being a man of God as far as standing on principle. You know what I'm saying? I didn't tie my daughter to the state. She has no state contracts. Um, certain things. It's just certain things. And I'm the personality type that I go and do shit. So, and Jerry knows this. Jerry Jerry knows this very well. I am not going to get information and be like, "Damn, that was really true. That really hit hard," and then just shelve it. I'm going to go fucking excuse me. I'm going to go put that information into some sort of project of some kind. Ain't that right, Jerry? And then I don't stop with it, do I?
Yeah, you're amazing, and
No,
just
thank
the
you.
level of work that you've done with the inner storyteller. First, it started off as a funnel presentation, and then it became a book and a podcasting series, and you have interviews, and you're just like and now you're gonna be performing again in Bandera, Texas after
Yeah.
Confluence. Now you're at Exim Build. You're coming up.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I almost want to say like I didn't say it for that, but thanks. Feeling all bashful. But yeah, man, no, that's where I'm coming from. Is healing has to do with putting your arms and feet and hands and fingers and legs into the information that you gain as far as it relates to your own freedom, the freedom of being your brother's keeper, your sister's keeper, um, being a good steward of truth. Right, truth is not physical, but you still have to steward it. Right, because truth is not you're not able to capture truth in your words. You can't speak and have somebody understand the fullness of truth. Right, truth is not, it's too big, it's too much, consciousness is too big. So being the example and showing up as an example of being truth aligned is something that it's like one of those, it's like chess. You have to get it wrong so many times in a row for you to start to almost get it halfway right. And then once you think you've mastered it, now you have to play the computer and you find out that you're trash. It's just as another analogy, like the game of chess, you could spend years and years and years and get better and better and better. And then you play a professional, or then you play the computer on hard mode and you're just garbage. Well, aligning yourself with real truth, real morality, and whatnot, although it is simple, when it comes to this world where we are born into so many false narratives and adopt by the time we're 7, by the time our personality is kind of locked in, and we uh our daytime hours are spent more in the beta brain wavelength. This world requires that we take very seriously the path of understanding our own shortcomings. And if we're not courageous enough to actually confront our own shortcomings, where we are wrong, where we are morally wrong for being an order follower, for our worldview, for whatever for whatever we are actually wrong in, objective, being upfront about that is a very difficult task for anybody, myself included. I just am lucky enough to be the personality type that if I learn new information in regards to my worldview, I can change my opinion on a dime. And I know that's not what most people can do. Um, because I have too many conversations with people like years later after I got the new information and just decided to go with the new information, the new confirmed information about something that's true. And they are stuck in the left versus right, black versus white, um, vote the right person in. If you don't like ICE, just vote in the new governor. That kind of thing. They're just locked in. You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm glad I don't suffer from that.
Very true. And I want to quickly plug whatonearthishappening.com. Mark Passio had a shadow work seminar last year. He's got an upcoming natural law revisited seminar this year. Oh, we have someone in the chat. You guys are quiet. Oh, that's
Oh,
nice. Hello. Um,
I got
yes.
my mic. My mic is the setting is all the way up.
Maybe I do notice that when you're closer, it's coming in a teeny better. So maybe that's
Okay.
the feedback. I want to kind of switch gears, and you mentioned, chess and just sort of like the healing process as a as an ongoing developing process. And I'm thinking about music, musicians. Why, and I've asked this of other artists, I do think there is something to the idea that as a musician, you're a beginner with your instrument or with your craft, with your, lyric development or whatever,
Yeah.
your poetic, you know,
Prowess. Mm-hmm.
yeah, expression and prowess. And so these things don't just happen overnight. You have to just put in the work. You have to get better. There's a humility involved in it. You realize that the way you've been practicing whatever instrument is wrong. You've been doing it
Yeah.
wrong. You got to change it up. And there's this like automatic, like, you know, uh yeah, just humility with that learning process. Do you think there's something to this idea that maybe musicians or music in particular as a vehicle for promoting a sort of
Like truth.
cultural humility and, yeah, just like an openness to truth and to developing in general? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well. I think that music is a business, and that what takes precedent, unfortunately, like what's wrong with it is what takes precedent before this is the message that I want to spread is what's going viral. Unfortunately, that right, like that's a thing that even an elementary school student would say is a little backwards, but you by the time you're old enough to sign a contract and get signed with a record label or anything like that, or by the time you're good enough to put your stuff out there and independently actually go viral yourself, you're confronted a billion times with virality versus non-virality and follower count, and how many people are walking around with your merch. Are you the man in your city? The transaction gets in the way of the project getting done, and therefore, what artists are trained to focus on first has a lot more to do with um, what's popular than what's authentic to them and what's coming from their natural talent. You know what I'm saying? Now, instrumentalists don't have that issue necessarily, but they do have the issue of, okay, well, what are the big names that I eventually want to work with? And if they put their morals in front of that and say, well, if they talk about this, then I don't want to work with them. Then they have a very short list of people that get them as as an instrumentalist real exposure, to where they can, maybe like provide for their family without having to clock in anywhere. That exposure is almost cut off as soon as you say, well, if they spread an immoral message, I don't want to work with them. If they spread an immoral symbol message in their videos, even if their lyric message is good, then I don't want to work with them because the producers that they work with are evil, right? If you decide to stand on principle, then the business side of being a musician is very hard to navigate. Not impossible. Some people do it. I love India Ari. I love Bob Marley, rest in peace. I love Nasir Jones even, and he's a gangster rapper, and I don't agree and I don't want to spread everything that he spreads, especially the materialism and the, whatnot. But his, let's just say his conscious content is on point. And so there are people that slip through, but it's like, how many new LeBrons got born today? Probably zero. Out of the millions and hundreds of millions of people that were born today, probably zero LeBron Jameses were born. It's just a very slim chance of being able to slip through that, and that's the issue. You know what I'm saying? I think this is a great question to also ask Tensi. That is so true. So standing on principle and navigating any music scene, whether hip hop, metal, punk, rock, doesn't matter. Exactly, because the Universal Studios, the whatever will be in the way. Okay. But can I tag in my better half so that she can also uh weigh in on this question?
Yeah, definitely. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to plug some the links, and I'll take up airspace. Yeah, so we have your guys' website, ufuluchild.com. We also have their link tree, and Sol also has his YouTube, where he has his Inner Storyteller series. And in case you're joining us just now, Sol Xprsn and Tenci are going to Exit and Build. Soundpath is working with Exit and Build to get natural law in other festivals. I, as an organizer, realized it's not sustainable for me to ask the community every single year for a venue, and for fundraising. And so, I've been sort of changing strategies and focusing on this sort of like guerrilla warfare style, where I'm sending, troops into other existing conferences or festivals. And that way, Soundpath is networking. Soundpath is representing natural law in these conferences through the lyrics, through the music, hopefully through presenters as well at some point, and or both. And then, yeah, in 2027, we want to do a East Coast tour, which I talked about. And Tensi's here. Yay. You guys are amazing. So Tensi, I was just asking Sol about this question, and I'd love to hear your, first of all, I just want to, yeah, let's breathe. Transitions. So good to
All
see you.
good.
And yeah, we Sol and I were talking about this idea that, and I've asked other artists this, but what are your thoughts on, like, I feel like musicians in particular are really good at deprogramming, are really good at being humble when coming across new knowledge. And, if you're practicing an instrument a certain way and it's wrong, you have to correct it. It's not
Right.
about, wallowing in, oh, I wasted all these hours doing this. It's okay, well, this is wrong. I got to do it this way.
Right.
And so, yeah, just wanted to hear your thoughts. Like, um, it is music. Was music part of your journey in terms of deprogramming or anything like that?
Hmm. So I met Soul in the capacity as a musician, and so I, coming from my own journey, like I had a completely different path. I studied corporate accounting and taxation in school, and then I found myself immersing into opportunities to perform. And every time I would perform, there'd be this calling in me because I would want to like move people. Like I would want to instill a deeper meaning. I would want to get the people listening to start to question, and really think on, okay, does this really resonate? Does this align with what I truly wish for in life or not? And how can we make it healing? So, I mean, I grew up listening to Bob Marley and Bunny Wailer and um, just different conscious artists in Jamaica, and because my family's Jamaican, and that's what we did when we were cleaning on the weekend, was listen to
I'm a very
reggae
proud
music.
mom of two Jamaican mixed kids. Love Jamaican
That's
culture and music. Yeah.
awesome. um, so yeah, I feel like because my dad was an artist, he was a visual artist, and he played in a reggae blues band back in the 70s, and my mom was a crafter, so like she would make purses and jewelry and things like that in her spare time, outside of her past of being an acupuncturist and a chemist. And it
Wow.
just really allowed for me being open to questioning and seeking out like-minded people, the artists, the healers, the change makers that are invested in that knowing that you have to change in order to see changes happen around you. And like what you were saying with artists, I think that was a great observation, that hey, if it's in if it's in the wrong key, it's not harmonizing. You just not, you can't keep going that way.
Yeah.
You have to change. Yeah, for sure.
I am so impressed that you went from, studying sort of like accounting tax stuff to being this conscious mom, musician, like networker for homeschooling and, uh,
Yes.
mothers of all kinds. I would love to hear about Thrive Zone and just everything that you're working on.
Yes. So I love that you said, mothers of all kinds, because I'm seeking out all the truth and freedom seeking mamas, okay, that are actually looking for a way to incorporate more of what they love, what brings them joy, and what they're truly needing in life, in the context of what they have the capacity for and they're ready for. So, um, through Thrive Zone, it's really a community that's here in Austin. It's also there are members that are across the nation. Oops, sorry, Mike. Um, and there are opportunities within the Thrive Zone to give and receive mutual aid. No strings attached. It's outside the money system, so no dollars are being exchanged. No alternative currencies are being exchanged unless you consider time and energy
That's right.
to be that. Because I feel like that's really what it means to shine, is to share honest, insightful, and nourishing expressions. Shout out acronym for shine.
Aw.
But yeah, we're literally shining on each other and giving and receiving things that we really need, and that light us up and remind us what it really means to thrive. Because honestly, I don't know if you've ever thought this too, but whenever I first hear someone talk about thriving, maybe you go to a Tony Robbins seminar or whatever have you, and or whoever is talking and they're talking about living your best life and thriving, and depending on where you are in life, whatever storms are meeting you, whatever cycle or rhythm you find yourself in, music reference, you might realize that sometimes it's really hard to even access what does it even mean to thrive for me.
Hmm.
Is that even possible anymore in the way that I thought before? And I feel like that's where, especially moms, like there's a unique type of initiation that mamas go through that low key nobody no one will know. No one will
Mm.
know. But the mamas. And I feel like because moms are such a core aspect to the family, because when you ask about, like, okay, so what's the health of the household, what's going on in the home, you can really just look to the mama to see what's going down. Okay, is she just running on fumes and trying to manage all the things, and maybe not open to receive and just perpetually giving, 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 and cannot let it go. That I've been
Yep.
there. So
Yep.
this is like my way of bringing more balance into homes, into families, into, and by extension, community. Really building, rebuilding what community can look like.
I love it. I want to hear about your spiritual initiation. Was it motherhood? Was it music? Like, what contributed to your sort of ongoing awakening healing process? Because clearly you've done the work, and you're activated. And how can we, especially, I'm just going to say it. I want to see more moms, women in general. I want to see, not that race is a man-made construct, and I want to see all kinds of different colored people. You know,
Yes.
I love my white bros, but we need some women and we need some non-white people up in here.
Hilarious.
I want everyone involved. We want to wake up
Mm,
humanity, not just a sector of humanity.
that's right. And I feel like half the time, one of the biggest things that I see is that, there's this apprehension, there's this hesitation to explore or dive into a new arena if you don't see someone that reminds you of you. And unfortunately, sometimes you just got to dive in, and you're not going to see nobody that looks like you. That's fine though, but I'm trying to create some spaces that are allowing for all of the mamas to come into the space together, and just know that it's not just the experience of the black mama that matters, but it's the experience of all of the truth and freedom seeking mamas, because what we're fighting is legit, like, bigger than any of this kind of thing around race or whatever, and the illusion of race, because we humans, yo. But I
Exactly.
get culture, you feel me? Cultural differences, that's all right. That's all
Yeah.
right. I feel you. Yeah.
So, when you talk about, the mother initiation, I would say
Yes.
for me, like, I literally recall when my first was born, the feeling
Mm,
of him separating from me, like
mm,
I was separating from myself, and
mm,
that was a mind fuck. And then I
mm.
started like just realizing we're all fucking connected, like all humanity,
For real. Yes,
and like, no, I can't. Yeah, yeah, I know you understand what I'm saying, but like
I
I can't
do.
even like articulate. Like, it was like all the mitochondrial DNA across all timelines and ancestries and bloodlines across all dimensions. It was like boom. But like it's hard to explain
Mm.
that to people, you
Yeah,
know?
Yes.
Because you sound crazy talking about it, but like it
No.
was like a
It is a
spiritual
spiritual
initiation.
experience. It
Yeah,
like
childbirth.
legit is like you're in a medicine ceremony. Like it's I feel like it could be comparable to plant medicine in a way of just the it's like a euphoric trance like state giving birth, to say the least. And um for me actually, like my I feel like my motherhood initiation, like I probably would never put this way before, but I feel like it low key became like it came into its beginnings with my mother talking with me as a child, as a little girl. Like she would sit me down and she would talk to me about and walk me through meditation
Wow.
and astral projection and like
Whoa.
just really understanding that we all are of light, and we all have that essence, and that's the trueness. And so that there's this l- really calling back to lineage and to honoring the fact that everything gets born out of this space, this darkness. This black hole births light too. It's not just a black hole. But um I feel like conversations with my mom are really what started me in feeling grounded spiritually. And then whenever I became um like in college, in while I'm studying accounting in the side, I'm like geeking out on holistic health and meditating and doing fasts and cleansing my body and all of the things meanwhile. And then so for me it's an like there's this constant rhythm and cyclical nature to spirituality, to where I keep I getting humbled by life, and then realizing that there's so much I don't know. But yet at the same time, with becoming a mother, that was I thought I was pretty awake. And then that whole experience, it's like it strips you down. It really does. I feel like becoming a mother is like you're going through another rebirthing process, and this is with each child that you have. And it's like a new rebirthing process of yourself, and who you are meant to be. Like, are you going to go with the status quo of what society has come up for you that is very much so not in your best interest? Or maybe follow that spirit, go ahead, dive
I
into
love
that
that.
fire zone, see what that is even looking like, ask those real questions, and then take it from there, one step at a time. um yeah, so I guess to kind of complete the lineage talk, I was briefly talking about like my mother and talking about our lineage and kind of like where that those seeds got planted within me, and then talking about becoming a mother. And then now 2 years, almost 3 years in to motherhood, new mamahood, it's really feeling like a deep reckoning, especially with everything going on in the world, to like this is now or never. Like you have to honor that calling for truth, the call to be in alignment with universal principles, with natural law, with the simple joys of life, and remembering that what we thought matters, it doesn't really matter as much as just being here and doing the best that you can to leave a better tomorrow for the babies, their babies, their babies, babies, and their babies, 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 babies. Yeah.
I love that you said that. I think, to summarize, it sounds like because your mother modeled that legacy generational beyond just the here and now thinking, when you became a mother, that just became like an automatic sort of process for you where you are just able to think beyond the here and now, but just and I have that too, like with Soundpath, like I want to just at some point I don't want to be the linchpin. Like I want to hand it off to whether it's my kids or someone else, their friends, someone else's kids, doesn't matter. Like I want to pass it on. Like I want to build systems that outlive me, that don't depend
Yes.
on me. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, yes. Because otherwise, it would just kind of be this one node of centralized power that will just fizzle out. And yeah. But I want to give you some props for sure, Jerry, because what you're doing now, and you mentioned kind of like this guerrilla tactic of really, it's really collaborating with other community members, other truth and freedom seekers that are doing similar things, and then just allowing for the artists to shine in those spaces and investing in us. That's a really amazing. Soundpath is awesome. Just don't forget that.
Thanks. Well, and truly, like I want to live by example. Like we should be investing in artists like you and Soul. We should be investing in artists like Red Pill Friends who are also going to be at Exit and Build with you guys.
Yay, they're
So
awesome.
yeah, Soundpath is mentioned on the Exit and Build website, and we're gonna yeah, just I really want to encourage people listening. If you want to see a truth and freedom movement, you have to invest either.
Yeah, it's all
Uh,
about that action.
right.
You
And
have
it
to
doesn't
take
have to be
action.
money. Yeah, action. It could be time. It could be volunteering. It could be, any sort of energy.
Yes. Yes. And that's just like, think of the banking system. Everything is contingent on the flow of exchange. Like, and it doesn't have to be money, but we have to invest our energy. We have to invest the time. We have to invest the intention and put into action the things that we're saying that we're about, because I feel like that's the only rut that I see a lot of people of the generations behind me have fallen in, is just talking about it or not talking about it, and
Yeah.
not taking the action anymore, just getting into convenience and comfort. But we can't. We literally don't have that luxury anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah, just really, I have tremendous respect for you and as well as for Soul and just your whole family and just everything that you guys have built and are building. And also your energy is just so healing. Like I feel like you really truly embody like the divine feminine. Like you have this sort of soft, sort of nurturing energy that I just love talking to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that wholeheartedly. Thank you so much. Yeah. Aw, yay. I do get those vibes from myself as well. So, get
Oh.
it. But yeah.
Yeah, so any sort of closing thoughts? I know Souls with your daughter, but any sort of yeah,
Yeah.
just things you want to share with the audience before we
Of
close out?
course, yes. So, I would love to share and invite out, if any of you watching happen to know a truth and freedom seeking aligned mama, okay? I would like to call her a freedom seeking mama. Then please let it be known that I would love to. I thought my baby was gonna come in, maybe soon. But I would love
Okay.
to invite y'all to the Thrive Zone Freedom Tribe. It's like a free community, and we're doing little field trips, okay? Right now, summertime is all about the shine exchange. So, no strings attached, giving and receiving in equal measure. We're going to be volunteering on Monday, the 22nd of June, at a local mama's farm site in Elgin, Texas, for a couple of hours from 9 to 12 p.m. And then in July, we're going to be traveling back out to where Confluence was, at Sovereignty Ranch in Bandera, Texas. to do a live podcast on the Thrive Zone with Molly Eckhart. And
Cool.
we're also going to be spending some time there, a few hours just to volunteer and support her on her regenerative ranch in whatever way that she needs. And so, if
Hmm.
that's something that you've been curious about, maybe if you've had questions that you would wish that you could ask another freedom seeking mama about land ownership or about, growing your own food, or how did you do the farm to table lifestyle? How do
Yeah.
you maintain, like, whatever questions? I'm literally writing down questions to ask from the community. So I would love if you have a question in your heart to just share it, and it'll most likely get asked live on the 21st of July, which is a Tuesday, and we'll make sure that the video recording gets sent out as well to Freedom Seeker Mamas in the Thrive Zone. Mm,
I love it. Thank you so much. And yeah, that's the school.com link to Thrive Zone, which can
that's
also be
it.
found on the link tree for Ufulu Child.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Tensi, and tell Soul thank you as well. And yeah,
Yeah.
just honored to know you guys and honored to support your work, your art. I wanna see you guys. I wanna I think in terms of systems, right? Like there's people that are activated, but they're not actively activated all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm just gonna say that I'm seeing who's activated right now, and you guys are
Yeah.
it. You guys are in the forefront. Like there's very few people, and I get it. Like I mean, when you're podcasting and you get so many views, it can be disheartening at first, and then because you want to, build your channel and build your whatever audience, but like I mean you guys are you don't give up, you just keep going, and I want to work with
Yes.
people like you guys.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for saying that. This is what it's about. It's really about like getting your piece of the puzzle with his piece of the puzzle, her piece of the puzzle, and just like creating the whole picture together, because we need each other out here in these streets.
Yeah.
Okay. We do. We really do. And I'm just so grateful that you're having these sort of conversations, and that you have the courage to keep showing up, because when I think consistency, I do think of you as well,
Oh.
because you have been showing up and supporting people, and that is like that's like the best thing, because even for someone that has all the money in the world, like they really wish that they could have that 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 true, like, heart aligned, I see you, I see you,
Oh.
I get you. Yeah, so yeah, gratitude.
Gratitude for you too. All right, thanks everybody. Thanks. Bye bye.